Yes, this is my review of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which is a direct follow up to 28 Years Later. Now, if you remember my 28 Years Later review, I enjoyed the kind of the rebirth of the 28 years, 28 days franchise. I enjoyed the cinematography. I enjoyed the kind of deeper story within the zombie universe. I loved the kind of idea that the zombies were evolving and they actually took on different forms, which was actually kind of thrown out a wee bit to focus on one aspect of the infection. So this is going to be spoiler heavy. I'm not going to do a kind of, well, I'll give it my overall thoughts and then I'll tell you when the spoilers are. I'm not sure if this is. I think there's similar things that I like about the first one and this one. I think there is a lot more compelling villain this time around. There is a lot more quieter moments which I think work really well. I think some of the cinematography, some of the scenes in it are very intense and very good. Where I think it lacks from the first one is just that kind of emotional connection, that emotional moment that the first one really, the 20 years later, really got me. Um, if you know, you know, with what happens in 20 years later. It didn't really have that in 20. I'm just got the Bone Temple, and I think that overall makes it not as good as the first one. But there is, it's different. It's different. It didn't have that immediate emotional response from me, but I think it's still on par with the first film and the one before this. The definitely the cinematography, the way it was made, the characters, the dialogue are all on par. They all provide a sense of that this world just feels lived in and it feels like it's progressed in such a way. And overall, yeah, I mean, I still like the film. I think it's as good as the first, but I think maybe just with that emotional edge, the first one has the edge. So, just to kind of give you the backstory, and I'm going to go into minor spoilers to start, but basically, Spike has ran away from his little village, and Ian, Dr. Ian, is still at the Bone Temple with Samson. Samson is the big alpha that Ian drugs. Ralph Fiennes' his character. And at the end of 20 years later, Spike comes across this group of blonde haired, we'll call them adventurers for the moment, who are actually the lead of them was in the first scene of 20 years later. And it was a very shift in tone because, and I thought there was going to be a shift in tone in this film in terms, and there is to an extent in terms of it's a bit more playful in some aspects of it, not in other aspects. But the main character of Jimmy, who is the son of Nick, the devil, and he's claiming to be that anyway, is just very charismatic. Like I found when he speaks, even though he's speaking a lot of crap a lot of the time, we know it. He just carries himself that it's like really engaging to listen to, and he provides some of the more actually humorous moments in the film as well as some of the more horrific moments in the film, which we'll get to. But he, as a character, I thought was, yeah, this is perfect for this universe. Like it makes sense. He's grown up with the infected, seeing what he saw in that first scene where his father's killed, and he knows he's a bit of a bullshit artist. Like he knows he is leading these people down a path, but he plays it very well in that he's able to captivate his followers and kind of keep them on a firm lead. Some of them anyway, which we'll get to. Spike throughout this is more a kind of background character, to be honest. doesn't really play a huge role. It's more Ralph Fiennes' character, Ian, and the Samson dynamic, which I think is one of the strongest elements of the film. Right, we're going to get into major spoilers, so if you don't want to hear about it, go see it, come back to the video. Please come back. That sounded desperate. I'm not desperate. But yeah, come back if you want. That's better. Basically, in the last film, Samson, big hulking brute, big alpha, naked, like running through, just killing everything that moves. And Ian had actually developed this drug that would stun Samson, almost keep him conscious, but just incapacitate him. And we learn that Samson actually likes this. He likes to be drugged because he actually wants to be in that kind of comatose state. And this is where we start to learn maybe about the infection being like psychosis as well. So the infected aren't just attacking out of aggression, they're maybe attacking out of fear because they're seeing horrific. And I wish the film didn't show what it showed, because you see what Samson sees and it is that. So I wish it was maybe talked about a wee bit more rather than actually just showing it, because I think that would have really been a nice like, oh. But as soon as they say that, you go, oh, he's seeing, when he's seeing humans, he's actually seeing monsters, so he's attacking them out of fear, and you think that they should die and then beaten. So that aspect of it, again, it's a deeper kind of zombie story where I don't know of any other zombie stories that have kind of went into this level of detail with the infected in terms of thinking about it more than just a virus that turns them into brain-eating zombies. Like, this actually thinks of them as they are still human, but they've got the psychosis to go along with it, which is why they act the way they act. And just the kind of build up of their relationship, because they actually learn to kind of work. Like, Samson ends up bringing Ian some stuff in return for his drug. It gets to a point where Ian's run out of the drug and he's not going to be able to actually make it, so he decides to try and kill Samson, like give him like a painless death. This was the emotional high point for the film, that I was like, oh, this is actually, quite sad, because they had done such a good job of actually building up the relationship. And then Samson says a word and you're like, oh, there is a human there. So the whole Samson story kind of ends near the end, which I'll get to, but basically Ian thinks he can cure the psychosis with some drugs, and he gives that to Samson, and Samson ends up being attacked by the infected, because he is now seemingly returned to a human state, because he's got clarity in his mind. So that'll be interesting to see if they explore that in the third film, and how the infected were able to pinpoint that Samson had changed. And maybe it is like that, like once he went back to a human state, the infected see him as a monster, so they want to attack him. Anyway, so that was the Ian and Sam story. I think that was one of the high points. I think that was my favourite aspect, especially at a human level, to kind of be almost like Frankenstein, like kind of trying to teach the monster to learn. There's a bit of that in there. And then we come to the Jimmy and his fingers and Spike story, which the first scene, it does not hold back. Basically, the way head Jimmy, because they're all called Jimmy, just stay with me, picks his followers as he has them fight to the death. So it's the challenger against one of the Jimmys, and basically they're just making a mockery of Spike, and Spike reacts, pulls down the guy's trousers, he's scrambling, he grabs a knife and he gets it right in the femoral artery? He pulls it out and it's just pouring blood. And it's just the guy's having a conversation and people are just standing there, and it's just gushing out, and it really does not let up the blood from there. Like that was a pretty horrific scene. I'm not gonna lie. Like even I was like, please, let's move on. But of course, we had to wait for him to die, and Spike now becomes a Jimmy, a finger, and he's forced along with these because if he tried to leave, they would kill him. So they are the antagonists. They go basically around looking for people to give charity to, and we'll get to the charity what it is. It's horrendous. So they end up at this farmhouse which has been guarded, and they find a family or people who are living there, and they tie them up. And then Jimmy goes on this big speech about talking to the devil and all that. And then he says t-shirts off. And when he said t-shirts off, I was like, they're just gonna, take their t-shirts off. No, it's skinning them. It's skinning them alive, and they show it. They show it like they do not. They don't show it all, but they show what the aftermath mainly. But yeah, that you see a lot, and it's a bit much. I've got to say, it was a bit much for me, and I like gore, but that was like So basically, the farmhouse had a bit of a disaster. A few of the Jimmies die. One of the girls gets away because Spike was like, "Take me with you. I want to go." She ends up socking him one because she's like, "I'm not trusting you. You just try to kill me." And she thought maybe it was a trick. I wonder if she'll play a part in the third film. And while that had all kind of been going on, one of the Kelly, Jimmy, goes off and finds Ian, who's got the red skin. So she reports back to the Jimmies, and is like, "Oh, your dad's over here, claiming he's the son of the devil." So they go there, and the funniest scene, if you can have funny in this, is when Jimmy and Ian meet, and I actually really like this scene because Jimmy drops the veil of what the facade he's putting on, and he just had a conversation with Ian. And then towards the end of the conversation, he's like, "I'll feed you your intestines if you don't help me out." Because he is basically going to tell them that, yeah, this is my dad, and Ian's going to play along. So that's the way it goes. And they arrive at night. Ian puts on this big theatrical production of him as the devil. We've got Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, play in the background, fire, ash, sparks, dancing. Ralph Fiennes is going nuts. And he blows something in there. I think it's like a drug, psychedelic, to make it seem a bit more real. And it's something to behold, I've got to say. It's something to behold. So basically, Ralph Fiennes does his part of the bargain. He's like, you need to obey this man. And this is where Jimmy gets a little bit overconfident and cocky. And he's like, "So you will continue to allow us to skin, to flay, to amputate," all these horrible things that he does. And you see Ralph Fiennes' face drop. And he's like, "Yes." But then he turns the tables on old Jimmy, and he's like, "Yes, you can do all that, but I need a human sacrifice. My son must be crucified." And of course, Jimmy stabs Ian, which then causes the other fingers to fight. Spike kills Jimmy, stabs Jimmy, and he ends up getting crucified. Him and the Kelly Jimmy, we're just going to call her Kelly now because she's no longer a Jimmy. And unfortunately, Ian dies from the stab wound, and Samson comes in, now seemingly fully back into a human because he's using his words. He says thank you to Ian. He carries him off, and Jimmy's just left there to be crucified and hopefully be eaten by something. And then we get the final scene into the third film. Cillian Murphy's back. He's back. He's going to meet Spike and Kelly. And I don't know what direction they can take it in now. I hope they still go with the Samson stuff. I thought that was the more interesting element. Maybe Samson could potentially be a cure because now he can educate others on how it can be done. Maybe they'll go back to the Bone Temple and find out the notes that Ian was writing down. That's where I could see it being interesting. Um, Other than that, like the Jimmies are all dead now. Maybe go back to the island, take Spike back to his island, but what does that achieve? Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I really do like that the film was carried on straight after, and hopefully this one does the same, because it makes it feel like one big film. So overall, yeah, pretty strong showing again. Like, I enjoy the universe that they're creating. I enjoy the world that they've kind of established. This brutal, realistic, yeah, almost some elements fantasy like with the visuals, the Bone Temple itself, the fire that was involved in this one. It's just like such a great kind of film series, and I will be quite gutted when this third one ends. I think they're just well made films, solid films that I will definitely be going back to once I've kind of not watched them for a wee bit. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the Bone Temple. Let me know, what do you think? Do you like it, same as me, or are you a bit more critical of it? And yeah, let me know down below. With all that being said, all the set to say is any thoughts, comments, general hostile remarks, leave them below. Thank you very much. Bye bye.